Hey guys, what's up? So, I know what you're thinking. Wow, you look like a mess. You got so much hair and all that stuff. Listen, it was Movember, so I decided not to shave. It's December now by the time I'm recording this, and my hair is a mess because of a shower. Actually, I don't even need to wear this, so at least I can let the hair like loose a little bit. But yeah, I just wanted to say if I'm a mess, that's why I have a good excuse. Anyways, that aside, if you're new to this, you probably know what this is anyways. I don't really need to explain it, but it's part of a setup series. I explain different parts of my setup. This one is lights and camera. This one might not be very long, but there is some stuff I did want to cover. I don't have a lot of b-roll footage, but I'll probably show you guys at least what we're working with. It's not super complicated, and that's partially what I wanted to talk about when it comes to this section, is that I feel like, especially the camera section, people get very what's the word, very ambitious. I feel like they're like, oh man, it's in lighting too. People are like, so if you look at some videos, and like I do my research on each of these things when it came to like wanting my setup to be as cool as it was, but also practical for myself. There are a lot of videos that will be like, lighting is key. Lighting is pretty key, don't get me wrong. Audio is more important, but you guys can go check that video out, which is already out in terms of explaining the audio part of things. Audio is more important, but in terms of visuals, lights are more important than camera, and that kind of gets people a little carried away in terms of what they might do. For example, I could have a light right here, which I might in the future if I could afford it. But the point is, I could have lighting over here, lighting in the back to create like an atmospheric effect. But instead, no. You'll see later, I have two key lights in different levels, kind of different levels. They're kind of at the same level, but they're in different, slightly different angles. And for me, that works. That works. I mean, you guys can look at what you're seeing here. It's not anything impressive. Kind of looks like I'm being interrogated, actually, if I'm being honest. But at least it does the job. It does the job. Now, I will say, while camera isn't as important as lighting, I can agree with that. I also feel like it can help a lot, especially in terms of engagement. I personally like, I mean, you are the subject in terms of your videos or whatever, like item or thing you're doing. That's the subject, like no matter of like lighting, cameras, audio are going to make that better if the subject's just not interesting for the video. So to create engagement though, I mean, you can create different angles, right? And you can do that with like, a bunch of webcams. Genuinely, you could. OBS is the perfect software for that. You have a bunch of webcams, like, I don't know, 1080p ones that you can get like from I actually don't know, a bunch of different random companies that you can, like Logitech or something, like your average ones that you can just put them in different places, like one in here, one higher, one maybe like right dead center. You could do that, and then you could just change angles and create like a little bit of engagement. Obviously, too many cuts kind of makes a little, I'm getting too much into the editing process, but my point is, this is where like things come more to how you want to record things. How do you want to like create your own footage? That's where like audio is, you don't really get into that, but like cameras and lighting, you do. So I'm gonna just quickly go over the b-roll stuff so you guys can understand what we're working with, and then I'll go into why I made the choices that I did. But I wanted to preface all this stuff so you guys knew beforehand. Anyways, let's jump into it. Starting right off, we got our Elgato key lights. The Elgato key lights, you can see I put them in two different spots. In general, it's just a power button. I mean, you can see on the back they're a little dusty right now, but yeah, that's basically it for the lighting. And then on the camera, this side is a little more important. So you can see I have my camera hooked up to kind of a makeshift Elgato like stand, like L stand. I got the Sony ZV-E10. It's got like it's a pretty good camera. I'll go more into depth as to why I chose this, but you got your zooms, all that stuff. I put it at an angle where you can kind of see, I guess not exactly like by face, like eye level, but you can kind of see like slightly above that. In terms of how I got it mounted, I think it adjusts pretty well. You can see I got my charging port right there, the cable that's coming out. Just charge it whenever. I got it plugged right into my PC so it can charge as soon as I turn it off, and then I can get full battery. Right now it's low battery, which is a little awkward, but I mean, it's all good. I got the zoom in, which normally is at the edge of my screen, and I got my little SD, hatch open, so anytime I need to just put in my files, I got a little SD card reader hooked onto the bottom of my desk, plug it in after I'm done filming, and then yeah, voila, it's all good. There you go. Literally, just that simple. Doesn't look very complicated. The only thing is that people will be like, wow, Elgato key lights do cost a lot. Do you need Elgato key lights? Hell no, you don't. This is where lighting can get flexible with it. You can go more like cheaper lighting and get the same results, honestly. I just was like, you know what? Might as well. Just have them here. Like, I just wanted big sources of light, and I was like, all right, cool. I got them right here. The other ones are a little more... they'll come in like stands, you know, and I feel like I wanted them to be hooked onto my desk, and I wanted them to be like large sources of light. So there is an app for them to change the lighting. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the greatest, you know. So I'm having a little bit of issues with that. So I decided to just leave them as is, and they've been working for me. I've been using them for close to 2 years now, and same for my camera, which I know is what everybody's curious about. It's like, oh, well, what camera should I get? Don't get one unless. Well, okay, I should preface this. Don't get a camera that does more than 1080p unless you need 4K. Mine does do that, but that's also because I was kind of like, maybe I'll use 4K, maybe not. But mine only goes at, is it 24 frames per second or is it 30? I think it's 30. It's 30 frames per second, which is nothing to scoff at. It's okay. It's not bad. I mean, like, it kind of just gives you a more high definition look. But again, everything I put out is 1080p anyways in terms of content. So I was kind of like, eh. But what did get me on this was two things. One, the ZV series, so there's the ZV-1, which is a point and shoot, and the ZV-E10, which is what I have. The difference between a point and shoot and what I have is that mine is a mirrorless, but it can change the lenses like a regular camera. That may not seem like much, but it's really important in terms of like future proofing your camera. So you can actually put different lenses, like an ultra wide lens, the lens I have here, which just works for it, like it's the preset one. It does, like, when you're thinking about getting a camera, if you want a full-blown camera and not a webcam, by the way, there's nothing wrong with getting a webcam. Like, I feel like webcams, especially if you're just making content, just do that. It works. But this is where I wanted to say, I wanted to preface some things. I want to leave it off with, my camera was expensive, but it could have been more expensive. And what I mean by that is, like, you could get a 4K 120 frames per second camera, and if you don't know what frame rate is, I'm not the best guy to explain it, but in general, it's how smooth your footage can be. When you get to 60, it's good enough. Mine can do 60 at 1080. There's a little bit of filtering going on to make mine also look good, but that's kind of like a preset with the camera itself, specific features, so I won't go into that. That's when you have to do your own research. But in general, cameras will have your frame rate. When you go above that 60 and you get to 120, the significance of 120 is not really just to get smooth footage, because at 60 frames per second, your eyes are all good. Like, what they're processing, 120 and 60, I mean, there's differences, but they're not going to be like, you know, super impactful. The part where it becomes important is when you're doing something called B-roll footage, which is you're getting, let's say you're reviewing something, or you want to catch something, not even just B-roll, or you want to catch something that's going kind of quickly. When you do slow-mo, you'll actually get smoother slow-mo footage on 120, and it's not like slow-mo. It's more like presenter slow-mo, like, you know, to get a better look at something, and, you know, make it like high definition, and, you know, that 4K footage at 120 is that golden spot for a lot of people where it becomes affordable, but at the same time gives them what they're looking for. You know, this is where the value kind of comes into question here. And that's what I wanted to pinpoint, is like, if you're a guy that needs a webcam, or you just need to get recorded, you just need to get recorded, and you're going to put it at the, like, you know, you're doing gaming videos, or you're just streaming, you could work off a webcam, no problem. If you're a guy that wants to do reviews on, like, items, and you want to have, like, a more presenter aspect to it, yeah, I mean, chuck up your cash. Now, here's the question. Now, here's the thing, though. You might look at it as like, why is one got a larger threshold than the other, in terms of like, well, if I want to get into this demographic, it feels like I got to pay more. Another way to look at it is like, when you're streaming and all that stuff, you can spend less on your webcam and still get a decent webcam, and then you can spend more on, like, say, the games you're purchasing, or like if you have all the games you want already, you could do on, like, stream features or editing software, or things that, like, not software, but like, what's the word, plugins. There you go. You can spend more on plugins and stuff. And I know some people are like a little iffy on, like, spending money on plugins, but it can help. It can definitely help in terms of your engagement of, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, visually, now we're talking about things you can actually see. Your lights and camera only go so far. In general, most of the time, people nowadays are very impulsive. They want things to be, one, short, which this video is not. It was meant to be short. And two, meant to be engaging. There's meant to be stuff happening, which I haven't had stuff happening. You can see I'm doing the exact opposite of what I'm supposed to be doing. But my point is, don't be me. Try some different things out. The only reason I'm not doing it is because I'm trying to take this much more casually right now on the personal channel. But in general, if you see my main channel, eventually you'll get to that point, but you get the point. Like, I've spent this much because I decided, listen, plugins are great. I'll eventually, purchase some more, maybe. Who knows? We'll see. That's a different topic. But without getting too personal, in general, I was like, I just want to, like, above average lighting and a camera that I felt like I could rely on for almost everything. And that's why I chose the ZV-E10, where I was like, I wanted the ZV-1 originally, and when the ZV-E10 came out, I was like, this is probably just a better option for the future. If I'm ever able to afford something that's like 4K 120 hertz, at least I can use some of the lenses and make it interchangeable among each other. I want all my cameras to have a little bit of a relation with each other, which is another thing. If you're using a Sony, if you're using a Canon, whatever camera you're using, it's not a bad idea to kind of keep within that family, but it's also not a terrible idea to go, go out of there. Just be aware that some lenses might not work with certain cameras because they're made for only certain brands of camera. It's not a matter of which brand is better. It's just a matter of keeping it kind of consistent, so you don't get into those awkward situations where it's like, because these lenses are expensive. If you spend this much money and, like, half your cameras can't use it, it's a little awkward. Anyways, that's all I had to say. Let me know down below if you guys do use cameras, lights, if you film, if you record, stream. What camera, what lights do you guys use? If you guys enjoyed, I'd also appreciate a like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next setup video, which will be my console stuff. And then we'll get into the last part, which will be furniture. And then I should be done for the setup series. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good day, take care, peace, and goodbye.